Okay, so for both Mark and Luke, what are some of the highlights of the ways they talk about the kingdom? So Mark and the kingdom, beginning with Mark, they talk about power, sight, and understanding, wisdom, and all that stuff. So kind of how it ties together is we see that the desire for these people, they want Jesus to be a person that comes in and drives out Rome. They want violence and they want all that to happen, but obviously that's not how Jesus does things. And so he asks James and John, what can I do for you? And they want to be right at his right hand, and they want to have this power. And then we see Jesus with the blind man, and it kind of goes into talk about how sight equals understanding and wisdom. And so then hey so then we see that power in the end comes from Jesus' crucifixion, and power comes from his suffering. And so I think one of the main things from this, or one of the key ideas, is his power. Moving on to Luke, one of the main and key ideas from Luke is his peace and the peace of the Lord. And so in hold on. Oh, so once again, we see that coronation, Jesus's coronation is on the cross, and it's his suffering. And all throughout the book of Luke, we see how many times Jesus could have came to power so early. He could have come to power if he fell to those temptations that Satan had was giving him with the entries and all of that stuff. He could have rose to power, but he could have brought this peace and this power so soon. But instead, he waits until the crucifixion and his suffering. So that was kind of all over the place, but I think I got there. So for both Mark and Luke, what would you say is the most important thing a kid needs to know from the lecture? I would say, as we go back to Mark, I think just the story of, the story of Jesus' crucifixion, and how we see that James and John, they wanted to be with Jesus at his right hand. But at the end, when Jesus is crucified and he's crowned with all the glory, we see that there are two thieves on his right and left. And so I think that just says the power of the kingdom comes at the power of the cross. And so it's he had these two thieves at his right and his left. And I think that's one of the most important things I think a kid should know about. And I thought that was the most important thing too. So going back to Luke, the most important thing, I kind of already talked about it, but is how many times Jesus could have come to power, but he decided to wait until his crucifixion. And so I really like the breakdown of each of the temptations. And so we see that he was tempted, people followed Moses and they loved Moses, and he was tempted to be more like Moses. And then people would have been following him, but he didn't fall into that. And then we see the next part of Satan, tells him to jump off this building, and he would have ascended down from heaven, and people would have been like, oh, well, that's not natural. And so he could have rose to power a little earlier, and then just bowing down and acknowledging that Satan is king, and that's just not that's not Jesus. So anyways, I think that like going through each of the temptations, that is one of the most important things from that lecture. And then sorry, my sisters are downstairs playing pool, but and then the last question. So for both Mark and Luke, what passages would you assign as homework to the student if you wanted them to learn about the kingdom? So from Mark, Mark 10:35 through 45, which is the story of the blind man. And that's where we see sight equals understanding and wisdom. And then from Luke, I would say just reading all of the times that Jesus was tempted. I think going through each one of those is something they should learn, or something they should read to learn more about the kingdom. So that's it.